It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quanell X and Big Angry Adams. Ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
Breaking news out of Texas. Republican lawmakers have just released a new congressional map, and it does not include Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's home within her own district. Let me say that again. They've redrawn the line so that Jasmine Crockett, one of the most outspoken Black women in Congress, is no longer living inside the district she was elected to represent. This is not just political, it's personal and it's targeted. The proposed map is part of a broader GOP strategy to grab more seats by redrawing boundaries that silence Democratic voters, especially in Black and brown communities. So under the new lines, Republicans are aiming to flip up to 5 seats, cutting through Dallas, Houston, and other diverse urban areas. Crockett has already blasted the move, calling it what it is, an assault on democracy and representation. Democrats are preparing to fight back in the courts, and civil rights groups are warning that this could violate the Voting Rights Act. But here's the truth. This is a test, not just for Texas, but for the entire country. Can elected leaders be drawn out of power with the pen?
Because there's a lot of controversy taking place in Texas right now. And it's all based on redrawing certain districts that many Black people and brown people feel is going to diminish. In fact, in some cases, perhaps even wipe out Black and brown congressional representation in Congress and affect other political positions across Texas. We've learned now that Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is one who very well may no longer be a congresswoman. If this redistricting goes as planned, that's specifically put in place by Republican legislators who always had a plan to do this. Yes, they talk about having hearings, etc., that the people got a chance to weigh in and give their opinion, but that's nothing more than a scam and a sham, because they've been planning how to redraw these districts for a long time to get rid of strong Black and brown representation in Congress and in state legislative houses. Even in Houston, Texas, Congressman Al Green, a longtime iconic civil rights figure, led the NAACP for years. He may no longer be a congressman if these guidelines that they've redrawn passes and becomes law. It's a wrap.
Well, I get that that's the talking points, right? I get that it is all over mainstream media, New York Times, CNN. Everyone's, the sky is falling. Oh my God, the evil Republicans are doing this awful thing. Right now, Republicans hold 25 of the 38 congressional seats in the state of Texas. Texas allows for this redistricting. When you say it's been in the works for years, that's not particularly accurate. Abbott rebuffed Donald Trump's overtures about redistricting initially, and has now, at most likely pressure from the president, from the executive, looked at it to try to help the Republicans maintain power in the midterm elections. Maintaining power in Congress during midterm elections is something that very rarely happens for a sitting president, right? Typically, America is frustrated with those in power, and you see a switch. We saw it in his first term. We've seen it in most presidential terms. Things are a bit different now because there is a whole lot of frustration directed at both parties, with many Democrats fearing that the bulk of that frustration continues to be directed at them because of their insistence on placing climate issues, gender issues, and social issues above the actual very real everyday concerns of the working class. What we've also seen is applause from that same media suggesting that if California, despite being prohibited from mid-decade redistricting, responds with their own redistricting to punish Texas for what they're doing, that's okay. Mind you, in California, I believe that the Democrats control 43 of 52 seats. In a state that's, 40% Republican, they have a very, very limited representation. In fact, less than what they should. And no one says anything. No one cares. Oh, well, it's the Republicans. It's California. That's okay. Well, Texas right now has more districts dedicated to Democrats at 13 of 38 than California does as of 9 of 52. You've never heard anything. You've never heard any mainstream whining and crying. And of course, because it's all done through the lens of race, not of partisanship, right? So why is it okay for the Democrats and not okay for the Republicans? The truth is the Supreme Court has basically said it's not, right? That these are states issues, not a federal issue. And historically, just conservatives have been, conservative states have had their hands tied and been prevented from doing what liberal states like California do, which is redistrict Republicans out of existence, right? Because why? They allege racial discrimination. I don't think it's going to carry the water now. I don't think many Democrats in Washington are going to be too heartbroken about Jasmine Crockett's absence. I think the only thing they'll be heartbroken about is about a continued being out of power. I don't think it'll happen. I think the Democrats are going to take control of at least Congress in the midterms. But I think all the hand-wringing and crying and shouts of racism and, they had this planned all along is just something you've made up to sound, I don't know, hyperbolic.
I am very glad that you said that and you used the word truth. Let me give you the raw, unadulterated truth. The state
First,
has always worked night and day, legislators, to make sure that Black and brown representation was always underrepresented. One thing about Texas, they always had this plan in effect when we got the new congressional district, when Congressman Al Green became a congressman. Yes, they've always had a plan of how to undermine, how to sabotage, and finally how to strip and take back from us anything we make progress in. The same way with affirmative action, we thought we made political progress, but Republicans showed us who give you the bill, we can take the bill back in Congress and in the U.S. Senate. The same thing with DEI. Every time Black people and brown people make progress politically, especially in Congress, state legislative houses, in the Senate, they find some way to creatively take it from us and rob that from us and take it and then use political excuses as though they're doing it for righteous reasons. They hate Jasmine Crockett. So I'm quite confident they made sure when they redrew them lines in Texas, they made sure they cut her the hell out. And I believe that was intentional on purpose. It's not the first time and it will not be the last. But the question is, are we going to allow it? Are state legislators going to allow it? The Democratic Party has had so many failures. If they lose this one, redistricting in Texas particular, they may never, ever have the momentum they once had 8 years ago and 6 years ago and 12 years ago to mobilize young people toward the Democratic Party. If they failed with this one, the Democratic Party may never, ever be the party that once was with young Americans, in particular.
Isn't the whole point to win and stay in power? You act like it's this racialized grievance, right?
But
and
it's always targeting Black and brown.
I don't interrupt you. On the flip side, you talk about Democrats as if they presume the Black vote. And here you talk about if they're entitled to it. But the truth is that the parties in power get to set voting rules, which is why you saw all these shifts blamed on COVID in the 2000 election or the 2020 election, which, Trump liked to cry about as if it's illegal. It was not illegal. But all these states, all these Democrat-controlled states, allowed extended balloting by mail, extended ballot harvesting in states that ballot harvesting previously wasn't allowed. Why? Because it tends to lead to fraud and all of these things. And everyone was mute about it. It's like, oh, okay, well, if they want to change the rules, if that helps the Democrats stay in power, then it's a good thing. And we're not going to complain about the media. And if you complain about it, oh, you're this horrible conspiracy theorist, right? The truth is the Democrats love to redistrict and love to rewrite rules to facilitate them staying in power. And everyone loves to scream about it when the Republicans do the same thing. And the way they do that is just what you're doing now. You're pretending that there's some cabal of Republicans that is saying, oh, let's keep people of color out of power, when actually there is a cabal of Republicans. There is a cabal of Republicans that say we want to maintain Republican power, right? And that's it. And it has absolutely nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with power. And they are trying to stay in power. But when you complain about Texas and then you compare it to California, where it is radically gerrymandered to make sure Republicans never have any power, and all the rules are created to make sure Republicans never have any power, and they've gone as far as to gerrymander counties like Orange County that have been historically Republican, then it really all sounds like hypocrisy.
But Charles, when you look at the numbers of the voters and the population of the people in said districts, these districts have been black and brown districts that are historically in Texas, and at one time, even in California, that were truly underrepresented based on the numbers of the population of the people of color, black and brown people. Charles, I absolutely believe that Congresswoman Crockett's district was intentionally targeted by the Republican powers that be in Texas. Absolutely, I believe.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Because I believe that they have a lot.
People think she's obnoxious.
But guess what, though? Thinking that she's obnoxious does not justify political corruption, shenanigans, and schemes.
It's not corruption. Redistricting isn't corruption. That's the basis of your dishonesty. They're the state legislator. They are elected. It's a Republican governor, and they're allowed to do it. And hiding behind the nonsense, oh, this is racism. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with party, right? And if it's okay for California Democrats, which have gerrymandered that state to Republicans have 9 seats out of 52, when you applaud that, but yet you're quiet about Texas, who is 13 states out of 38 that are given are set for the Democrats, it's all a bit absurd, right?
But
it's
Charles,
either okay or it's not okay.
When you break down California demographics, California's demographics are way more Democratic leaning than Republican leaning. So if we're just
60-40, it's like 59-41.
So let's remember, Charles, that has a lot to do with a lot of different factors in California that don't represent those same factors in Texas. What's happening in Texas, because this discussion really was about Texas, you threw California in a discussion, which I don't have a problem with.
The media has thrown California in the discussion. Newsom has thrown himself in the discussion by saying he will retaliate.
What Texas is doing is intentional to undermine the voter representation for people who historically have been denied adequate representation in legislative houses and in Congress and the U.S. Senate.
Okay, so it's okay for the Democrats to do it in California.
They've been doing this for generations in this country to undermine black and brown representation. Okay. It's not anything new.
To be clear, you're okay with the Democrats doing it to a much further degree in California.
I never said that. I'm against corruption coming, no matter if it's Republican or Democrat. I'm against any party that specifically targets a said seat to undermine representation of a people who historically have been underrepresented. If it's Democrats doing it, I'm against that. If it's Republicans doing it, I'm against Republicans doing it.
What does that mean? No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
They targeted Jasmine Crockett on purpose in Texas.
What they're trying to do is it's not you want to make this a grand racial conspiracy, which it's absolutely not. And I mean, you want to make everything a grand racial experience. That's your trade, but it's not. This is about maintaining power, right? And it's about the Republicans finally saying, hey, if the Democrats are going to do this in every state they control, which the Democrats do, right? Then we're going to start doing it too. And then the Democrats have their typical rejoinder, which is racism, right? Which is obviously something until lately the Republicans have not been able to do. But the Republicans now with this Supreme Court have been able to, they've been able to say when white applicants are discriminated against in higher education, they've finally been able to say, hey, yeah, this is kind of racism too, right? You talked casually earlier in this segment about, they're against DEI, right? We don't need a better America, but deciding more affinity groups, segregation, and a different kind of discrimination is the solution. It's not. We need equity and equality in America, which is, of course, not something you're at all actually interested in. Right? You want to punish the whites. Just like before this segment, we were going to play a TikTok with a white guy, and you said, I don't want to play a white guy because you're a racist. And we all get tired of you being a racist, right? And what's crazy is that you're calling Republicans racist, which I'm not even a Republican. Instead of when you're the racist,
black man or woman can be a racist. We don't have a power to be a racist. You're going to be a
see,
racist
that's the
America
cop-out.
with no power to
I'm
inflict
a
your
racist all
racism
the
on any
time,
said
but I
group?
can't be a racist because I'm black. Down
No,
with Whitey.
no black
But
man or woman
that's
has the
meaningless
power
'cause
to
I'm
be a
black.
racist in America to inflict discriminatory practices on the masses of white people.
What an
No black man or
incredible
woman has that power.
cop-out, right? And it's nonsense. And the truth is, if it's okay for Californians to marginalize Republicans, then you should expect Texans to marginalize Democrats. I don't think it's okay. I think the districts should just be regular old districts, right? I think they should follow county lines and community lines instead of these weird squiggly lines that the courts have forced upon America for years, all because people like you have screamed racism, right? Wouldn't it make a lot more sense for like Montgomery County to have its own representative and Harris County to have its own representative and not, in fact, have all these weird districts all set up because some crazy far left progressive judge has threatened to punish everyone, right? And no, it's nonsense. And if it's okay for California, it's okay for Texas. The screams of racism don't matter. What we need is we need normalcy and fairness. And we'll never see that from either party because they're a bunch of corrupt monsters just trying to cling to power.
It's about maintaining power. I agree with
That's
you.
what I said 15 minutes ago.
Power. It's about maintaining white power. And until we, as black people, fight night and day to make sure things like this don't take place without a fight, then we will continuously be underrepresented in Congress and in the Senate and the state legislative houses. All because they want to.
We had a meeting and we said, hey, let's keep Jasmine Crockett and all the other people out of power based on skin color. It wasn't about party at all. It wasn't the Republican Party. It was a white meeting. We had a statewide white meeting. Only whites were allowed. We called it an affinity group, right? We said a white affinity group meeting, and we all went in there and we had people saying this, and we said, oh, let's exclude. No, this is the Republican Party wanting to maintain Republican power, right? And there's nothing, it's not seen as obscene when it's Democrats, but when it's Republicans, it's the end of the world.
I'm sure everybody's heard the news by now that I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week, and really the only thing that I really ask is like, guys, could we wait until Monday? My brother's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I really want it to be about him, and I wanted to be about my family. I know this coming out will overshadow everything that he's worked his entire life for. And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. And so, as I told him, as I profusely apologized to him earlier today, he said, bro, stop apologizing. You don't have to apologize. I'm your big bro. I'm going to love you regardless. We all make mistakes. And he says, bro, I love you. So I'm done with this. You're done with it too. Move on. And I really enjoyed my time at ESPN. It gave me an opportunity to bring my audience that saw me really just grow. They saw me, Lakers in 5, and they saw me say all these analogies that my grandparents gave me, and I was able to bring that to ESPN. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But I just wished, of all things, like I said, hey, they did what they felt they needed to do, and I'm at peace with that. But I just wish, guys, this thing could have waited until Monday, because I hate the fact that I'm overshadowing my brother, the first two brothers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And this is what the headline's going to be for the next couple of days. So
here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
That was Shannon Sharpe talking about and it wasn't a firing. They just did not renew his contract. Shannon Sharpe and ESPN in the wake of this April of this year lawsuit filed by a former girlfriend that he dated. It was a girl, although most news outlets do not state her identity, and I'm not going to. It is publicly known, and I think she's about 36 years younger than Shannon, and there were some communications about choking and coerced anal sex and other things that he has claimed was taken out of context. And of course, he had a lot of evidence that it was in fact a consensual relationship. But, consent isn't a static thing. And it does appear that she had evidence that he had refused to wear a condom and engaged in types of sex that she had said no to. Ultimately, I think ESPN just didn't want to deal with the fallout, right? Obviously, we have platformed a number of communities, and there are a lot of people that felt very different both ways about Shannon. I think he's always been a terrific broadcaster and a dynamic personality, but I also get why being attached to these allegations of toxicity and sexual assault and physical abuse, that ESPN didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Brother Shannon is a very intelligent brother. In fact, many were shocked to just see how intelligent this brother was through commentary on ESPN and some of his other platforms. But we all watched him, many of us on First Take with Stephen A. Smith. But Brother Shannon, I want to say this, brother, and I echo what was said on the Breakfast Club. When you have something to lose, you got to act like it. Brother Shannon, what were you doing, brother, at your age? A smart man, an intelligent man, messing with a young 20-year-old white girl. What is wrong with you, Shannon? That little girl is an OnlyFans model / AKA OnlyFans hooker getting paid to strip and show herself naked and play with herself on camera and let men pay for it. And then after you've settled with her, she had the nerve to publicly announce she's retiring from OnlyFans. I'm sure you are. This girl, Brother Shannon, what are you doing? She got more miles on her than a highway between Texas and California. Here it is. The damn girl is not quality. You fishing at the bottom of the barrel and wonder why you coming up with trash, Brother Shannon. But I hold you accountable, Brother Shannon, because you're the smarter man. You're the older man. You're the more mature adult. What the hell are you doing messing with a young girl like that? I know you don't want nothing old but money when it comes to women. I understand that. But, brother, if you're going to get you a snow bunny, as they say, can you at least get you a doctor, a lawyer, a scholar?
Okay, so if you listen to this tirade, her race, I don't know what her race has anything to do with it, but you lead with race. Why, I don't want to listen to your tirade again of how you can't be a racist while you're being a racist. Then you moved on to misogyny, right? That she
I'm talking about the snow bunny who got paid.
Industry. So you're saying she has no value as a human being and no worth, and she's been basically rode hard and put up wet.
White men don't want her.
The fact that she's white and the fact that she's an OnlyFans model means none of the abuse that they had evidence of. You don't even mention it. You don't even give it any lip service. You're like, why are you messing? Why are you a snow bunny? All this racialized